Professor Stefania Giannini, UNESCO Deputy Director General for Education, will now address the audience.
Signor Ministro Bussetti, Excellencies, distinguished colleagues, students, dear friends, it's my great honor, a great pleasure really, to celebrate here today the 20th anniversary of the signing of the Bologna Declaration by 29 ministers. As former rector myself, former minister, and today currently as Deputy Director General for Education at UNESCO, which is the only UN agency which has a mandate covering higher education as well. At the turn of a new century, the Bologna Declaration promoted a remarkable transformation, a very big change, culminating in the creation of this, what is an achievement today, of higher education area that spans cultures, languages, systems, and borders. And it unified also the academic community, as the rector just already mentioned, around, I should say, a sense of shared values, heritage, and vision. And these values are deeply rooted in the rich history of education, higher education universities in Europe, which is definitely based, I should say, on three fundamental dimensions: being international, being interdisciplinary, and being innovative. The declaration and the ensuing Bologna process have brought out and highlighted these dimensions and facilitated unprecedented cooperation across the region, harmonizing degrees and in the three-cycle pattern, which is a fundamental achievement of the Bologna process, as we know, leading also to a continuous flow of knowledge, ideas, circulation of people, students, researchers, and more than this, contributing to building cultural understanding between the 46 members of the community. It's telling that many countries today, at international level, at global level, have looked to the Bologna process as a model to reform their own institutions and systems. Well, 20 years on, this anniversary is not only the occasion to keep the memory of the history, which is quite important, we know as a university professor too, but it's time to reflect on our ambitions and responsibilities for higher education today in this society. And today we live in a world that we know it is increasingly connected and global, yet polarized and unequal, driven by disruptive technological changes, advances about the what we learn and teach, and about the how we create and share knowledge. This is a world which also in recent years has witnessed the largest movement of people since the last World War, with a lot of social and political consequences we know very well. Then, against this backdrop, I think that it's important to put on the table the right questions. I would like to address shortly, in my 10 minutes, more or less, 3 of them. First, what is the university role and responsibility in this 21st century? What aspirations should students be gaining? And what new forms of intellectual and moral solidarity should institutions of higher learning be promoting, developing, and promoting? Perhaps more than ever, in these current times, the importance of quality and trustworthy higher education programs is today universally acknowledged. First of all, it's acknowledged by students themselves, demanding for higher education increasingly, I should say from my privileged global observatory, nearly all parts of the world, and being increasingly mobile. I want to mention some numbers that this impressive community of rectors never saw something in my life like this. Congratulations to the magnificus rector of Bologna today. They know very well, but just to say that an estimated 220 million students are enrolled in higher education today worldwide, and there were almost 68 at the very beginning of the 90s, last century. So you can see the impressive growth. Secondly, the strategic role of higher education is recognized today in the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Let me say, as the responsible in the UN system for education and higher education, that this is a tremendous opportunity. This is really a tremendous opportunity because it's the first time that higher education has been mentioned and focused on in a such global blueprint. You know, 17 global goals, from eradication of poverty through education, health, quality education, health, gender equality to peace, justice, and stronger education, the 16. So it's a global agenda to build a better society based on sustainability. And to do that, I think that the university will be really one of the main actors of the process, one of the main drivers of the process. I see this one as one of the most relevant ethical responsibility of the university today, to be at the service of humanity, to leave no one behind, just to quote, the very well-known title of the agenda. And this calls for sharing knowledge through open platforms and open data and open science and open educational resources that mobilize collective intelligence around the project itself. And it calls also for ensuring equal access for women and men to affordable and quality education, higher education, tertiary education in the world. It's not like this, and gender gap is still a big problem we had to address. This entails strengthening regional and global quality assurance mechanisms to protect learners in the face of the huge diversification of providers and learning modalities available today. And this is something which UNESCO is addressing precisely in these current times. And this is every university mission, to provide high-quality programs that can meet students' expectations, inspire them to be open-minded, to be, as we say, critical thinker, innovative, and to take up what is going around them, no? To distinguish between truth and fake news, to be able to understand, to better understand the society around them. In this sense, I would say that university is the intellectual arm of multilateralism, with responsibility to promote knowledge sharing and research, and to build bridges between the communities of research and communities of policymakers and practice. Building such partnership between university and policymaker will generate for sure the knowledge to drive progress across development. Policies must strongly rooted in scientific evidence, and the dialogue between politics and science must be open and permanent. Let me emphasize this point. It is quite crucial in my view. Finally, universities and international organizations have an instrumental role to play still in defining the ethical framework to protect surrounding the frontiers issues of our time. I should mention only one, artificial intelligence, which is about a huge change, a huge development, but some risks that we know very well and we have to address definitely like this. Well, excellencies, in the next 20 years, our ambition should be to create a truly global higher education space, putting the Bologna process as a model at the basis of that, allowing to join programs, join research initiatives across regions with special emphasis on developing nations, which are still behind, as you know. I think that what we need is a humanistic approach. That means to invest in human capital and in education as a public good. As a community, we should strive to build open, inclusive, trustworthy, and recognize higher learning institutions. That means to prepare citizens to be change makers of sustainable and ethical solutions. Building on the regional conventions to do that, UNESCO led on the elaboration of a global convention. Global convention, I should define like this to conclude, is like something like a knowledge passport. The knowledge passport we need today to make our students, our young people, our researchers, all of us as professors and members of this academic community globally to be ready to go and to see, recognize our degrees, our qualifications, but also the content of competence we acquired. And this global convention will be proposed for approval at the General Conference this year in November in Paris at UNESCO. And after the approval, I'm sure it will be, I should say, the milestone for culture and educational diplomacy. It stands also to benefit refugees and migrants and societies by not wasting, but valorizing talent. This underscores the twin dimensions of inclusion and quality. It's a question in this century, the real challenge and the real big opportunity is to balance between excellence and equity. The last century was about excellence, and this century is about combining these two dimensions. And as the oldest university in the world, Rector Magnificus, dear Francesco, if I can say like this, holder also of the UNESCO chair in religious pluralism and peace, we are very proud of that. I think that, for 9 centuries, you've been the international space par excellence, as they say in French, for the meeting of minds and forging culture and change. And this is the right time and the right place today, looking forward, looking at the big challenges they have and the big opportunities to celebrate the very good breaking out example of international cooperation inside the academic community. So, bon anniversaire, felicitations, e grazie mille per l'invito.